to make amends. No more consequence, only evidence.
All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Art of War stream of DreamHack Atlanta 2024. We are here with the final round of the DreamHack Team Tournament, and this is going to be Team Art of War competing against the Midwest Monstars on stream. Both of these teams have been on stream in the past, and so we already have their lists ready. And now we're kicking off the action. We're starting off with some early pairings, and sure enough, we're seeing some typical moves from Art of War. They have begun by putting the Leagues of Votann out as a first defender, sticking to that normal strategy that they've shown us throughout yesterday. In case you did not catch up on what we streamed the last 2 days, we are streaming 8-man teams against each other, and we're going to have all 8 tables on stream. I'm your host, John Lennon, joined today by the lovely Werner Bourne as we cover this round. So we're starting off with the Art of War team, currently debating their attackers into Chaos Basements.
Like if he gets to pick table 7.
All right. Looks like Midwest Monstars knew very quickly who they wanted to attack the Votann with.
Send me. Groovy, send me.
Yeah. Art of War is still making decisions out here.
I'm disappointed, by the way.
Nope, they're sending something into the Chaos Space Marines.
What happened to the GSC off?
Well, you could still make it happen. That's up to you.
All right, so the Leagues of Votann are going to get to choose between Sisters of Battle and Tau, it looked like. And
Last
then
night, both of these teams were at dinner together, having a lot of fun, kind of poking at different pairing possibilities,
yeah, absolutely.
trying to maybe force some mirrors or give the impression that that might happen.
Yep, there's plenty of shared armies and shared opportunities and, you know, even some shared friendships between these teams.
Yeah.
So it'll be very curious to see what the dynamics are of these pairings. Even though these teams and a lot of the players are known to each other, this is the first time that the Midwest Monstars and Team Art of War have actually clashed. But, you know, they're both quite successful teams. Art of War has obviously won multiple team events in the past, whereas the Midwest Monstars just won an event about a month or two ago in the Midwest. And so a lot of strong players from the Midwest on that team, as you'd expect with the name. And we'll see how they fared Art of War today.
Take pitch.
And you hear some background noise from the DreamHack convention there. I'm guessing someone just won one of the gaming events.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, come on, Ryan. What was that?
Why'd you attack it? Looks like
You didn't have
All
to
right.
accept it. Yeah, that was you.
So it's going to be Leagues
let's
of
roll it.
Votann against Sisters of Battle.
Big Richard.
And then it'll be Chaos Space Marines against
Russell, get him in there.
6. Oh no, the pressure.
Nick was.
Wow. Team Art of War has won a roll-off. They are extremely proud of themselves. I believe that's a first of the weekend for them.
Yep.
Oh no. That's gonna be
Oh, you're the first table fan.
Oh, yeah, my bad. I'm sorry. Yeah. I was just blanking out, man. Come on, don't think too hard.
That just means that the Leagues of
You
Votann
already
get the
know.
first table choice here against the Sisters of Battle. It'll be quite interesting to see what they decide to go with. Both those armies generally bring a good amount of guns to the table, and so, you know, they have taken for the slowdown approach. It looks like Leagues of Votann have taken a very dense table, and they're going to be happy to just, you know, sit behind walls. Now, Chaos Space Marines are choosing the table for Genestealer Cult. We'll listen to the players, but Nick has a lot of experience against Chaos Space Marines with the Genestealer Cult. He just played it yesterday morning.
Damn, dude, solid, bro. Fuck. Excuse my language, but man, dang, that was rough, dude. I saw that 5.
All right, so they're still deciding on whether each can defend with.
No, right, dude.
I'm thinking 5 or 4. I'm between those two. I'm thinking 5.
I mean, 4 is very useful as an attacker, right?
Yeah.
So right now, Art of War is deciding their next defender because they have no more choices, while Monstars are debating this table and then their own defender as well.
That's a first.
And while that's happening, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the mission for this round.
Oh yeah. What do we have? Looks like we've got a good old triangular deployment. Corners.
Yeah, I think this is Crucible of Battle Ritual, as I recall.
Oh yes, I do think it is ritual.
But I don't remember what the mission rule is, so we're going to find that out real quick.
Swift action.
All right, so Swift Action is the final piece of that puzzle. So, you know, Battleline getting rewarded there with that ability to advance and action.
Any
Yep.
particular armies you think that might benefit from that?
You know, anyone with Battleline is what's really happy. On the Team Art of War roster, I know that the Admech have a decent amount of Battleline, and a couple in the Votann army as well. I don't believe that the Sisters have any Battleline. I know that the Guard are very light on it. The Gene Stir Cult would, of course, have a lot of Battleline as well. They can usually get actions done pretty well just by dropping in. All right, so one Defender's ready, and both. Yep. Sisters of Battle and Tau are going out. So it looks like Quinton Sisters of Battle are going out, and Tau on the other side means that, again, both teams have looked down and decided there's enough open tables left. Let's get someone with guns and find out who they're going to play against.
And sometimes the naming convention of attacker and defender can be a little bit of a misnomer, because while these two armies just went out as defenders, they're really being put out to try and get big scores.
Absolutely. Certainly, Quinton Johnson's Sisters is something that Team Art of War normally relies on to be a high score. Tau on an open table, well, no one's going to feel safe about that. But I'm willing to bet that Team Art of War feels like they have an answer prepared for this. All right, and good evening from Berlin. Good evening to you, Thomas. We're having a nice morning here, but hopefully things are going well across the pond.
Yeah, where's everyone else tuning in from?
Because if you're like 10s across the board, 10s, 11s.
All right, you can kind of hear the players sound. Let's see if we can make it a little louder.
Well, it would be Jack.
All right.
Oh.
So it seems that Jack is one of the people being considered for this Tau right now.
This is, yeah.
He did just play Tau yesterday.
Yeah, he might want a little bit of revenge
I'll use
after
Jack
that.
now and I'll save
Yeah.
you.
This now that I believe this is a very different type of Tau list than the Crisis he faced off against recently.
That is
All right, Art of War has made their choices. If I were a betting man, I feel like Admech just got put into a heavy shooting attacker yesterday, and they were able to persevere through some incredible guard shooting. And I would not be shocked if the Astra Militarum from Jack Harpster were going in for a rematch against Tau. I think he got caught off a little bit by a retaliation cadre yesterday, but I believe that this is a little bit more of a typical Montca here that we're seeing from the Midwest Monstars. Yeah, now, not that Hammerheads aren't scary, mind you.
No, it's just a different dynamic.
All right, looks like some guys poking back and forth. Plenty of choices still. I'm not sure what the Monstars are going to counter those Sisters with, but they're certainly taking their time working through the options, making sure that they're comfortable with the answer they come up with.
Yep. And of course, in this kind of a situation, you're thinking about not only, you know, what pairs in well or as well as it can be, but also what is that going to influence later down? You've still got 4 more matches after these.
Absolutely. And it looks like the Monstars have their choices ready. I'll probably explain this pairing process a little bit as soon as we're done with that. There we go. Astra Militarum and Admech are going into the Monstar Tau. Well, it looks like Grey Knights and Astra Militarum are being offered up to the Sisters of Battle. Spicy. I believe that Grey Knight list was a bucket of Dread Knights, maybe even Canis Rex. Just the classic German war machine, as we call it. So while the players debate on what they're going to select of those things, I'm just going to explain the pairing process a little bit. So each team puts down one faction that's represented by a card. They put it down as a defender. And then they flip it over simultaneously, so you each see the other team's defender. Now, the defenders don't play each other. Instead, each team prepares 2 attackers to go into that defender. So, Team Midwest Monstars defended with Tau. The Art of War sees that Tau has been flipped. They flip their Sisters. Their Sisters are no longer available. They are going to now pick 2 things to attack the Tau with. In this case, they have chosen Adeptus Mechanicus and Astra Militarum. Now that they have done that, they're going to give that to the Tau player. And so the Midwest Monsters get to look at Admech, Astra Militarum as the 2 choices, and their Tau has to pick one of those 2 things. So that means if you have 2 counters, which Team Art of War, you know, probably believes that they have, well, then the Tau gets to choose between those 2 counters. But sometimes you feel that there aren't 2 counters for you, especially because the Tau player gets to choose the table they're playing on. And so it looks like it's going to be Tau versus Astra Militarum on, I believe that is going to be layout 5, which is notorious for being wide open when you play it on anything besides Dawn of War.
Yep. And we actually saw that terrain, that map selection made before they even put their opponent out.
Yep, comical, but you know what the Tau are up to. You know what kind of game they're
100%.
about. And so Tau into Astra Militarum is going to be the last game there for these players. Grey Knights into Adeptus Sororitas. We'll see how that one goes. I know that previously I think that the Sisters, well, no, I don't think the Sisters actually have played against Grey Knights this weekend that I've seen. So this one's a bit of an unknown. You know, we'll see how that goes. And now each team is picking their final defender. It gets a little bit weirder here because there's only 4 teams left, so they're going to flip these defenders, and they're going to get attacked like normal. Looks like Thousand Suns and Genestealer Cults are the defenders here. Genestealer Cult's probably looking to take advantage of that table choice and get something a little bit heavy. I recall that Genestealer Cult list is a little bit heavy on combat and a little bit light on melee. Or sorry, a little bit light on shooting, I should say. So I don't think they want these wide open killing fields like we saw the Tau player choose on table 5.
Right.
All right.
We saw a very dominant performance from that GSC list yesterday.
Absolutely. They Genestealer Cult have been scoring very well on the channel. I don't believe that they've lost a game in the 3 times we've had
Bit
them
of
on
a
channel.
surprise.
Yeah, Genestealer Cult really performing here. Kind of a hidden ace for both teams.
All right. Now, there was 1 extra army from each side, basically, after those 2 attackers. So those 2 extras are going to be automatically paired into each other. So you can see that at the very end.
All right, so that means that the very end is going to be Dark Angels by the Midwest Monstars and Chaos Space Marines by Art of War. So that's Russell Tassin going up against Kyle McCord, and it looks like the Thousand Suns have already made their acceptance and decided what they're going to refuse. And then there's just 2 things left. So the Dark Angels have decided not to go into the Thousand Suns there. Either they wanted to wait to the end to try to pin those Chaos Space Marines, or they just weren't feeling confident about the quantity of Doom Bolts that Mike Muzzini is going to be slinging around for the Art of War team.
Jonathan, no worries. It was originally scheduled for 11, but the tournament organizer basically said, hey, if teams get here a little early, we will start a little early, make everyone's departure a bit easier. So,
Yeah. So we want to make things, you know, once the players started pairings, well, we just had to turn our cameras on and start talking.
Didn't want to miss it.
All right, and now let's see if we can hear the pairings.
Like up from the GSC, that's the best part. Just keep it tight.
Correct, you have to stick with your given factions on the team. Also, probably want to. Although it would be kind of fun to try to switch the players around to see where they're needed.
Both of you have good matches. As a guy who doesn't shoot at all, so we pick give up the table.
So right now, the Genestealer Cult is deciding between Dark Angels and Adeptus Mechanicus. I don't know if they're thrilled about either of those. But you know what? Ryan Verbeek has done very well. Maybe he thinks that he can crack through the Deathwing Knights.
I like it. I think it's not. I like mine more, but I think this is a cool army.
So what are we doing?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
All right.
I played all the.
So we're going to accept.
like all the.
Looks like this
whatever
is
the-
Jared.
Yeah, it's attached.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I honestly had
All right.
So, Admech
playing
GC
it
first.
Okay. Admech and
Our
Genestealer Cult,
scoreboard.
that'll be extremely interesting. That's what I'm going to want to watch. Richard
I used to
Siegler
run that.
against
I
Ryan
turned into
Verbeek.
this
Those are certainly
list. You'll
2 of
notice
the
a lot
aces
of
for each of those
the same.
teams.
Yeah.
And then Thousand Suns into Necrons. This is something that I believe Mike is rather comfortable with. I know he has mentioned that I believe he has played Necrons twice already this weekend, and so he knows the rules. He's ready for a 3rd time. We'll see if his confidence bears out. Corey's list certainly shoots quite hard. And then that final game that just got revealed is Astra Militarum against Dark Angels. This is a matchup I have played. That matchup is a lot of fun. It's competing styles. The Astra Militarum and the Dark Angel list are each trying to do similar things. Obviously, that Dark Angel side is going to be a little bit better in combat, but maybe not shoot quite as hard. But I got to say, the difference between a Deathwing Knight and a Bulgrin, it's going to matter here if Team Art of War hopes to achieve victory.
Yep.
That's going to be a fun one to watch, especially because it's on one of those last tables, and Art of War is going to get to choose it.
Yeah.
So they're not going to be great choices, but they're going to get what they get. And then certainly you could think that they could pick an advantageous table to weather the firepower
Make
that's
it a
coming their way.
little bit easier.
Yeah.
And yeah, Thomas, so players have to stick with their faction for the weekend. In terms of if a certain player maybe has that more defensive mind, you're going to come into the weekend kind of with that as part of your calculus. You know, what army they are playing, where you're going to typically use them in the pairing process. You're kind of baking that in, especially with the 8-team format. You know, at any point in the meta, there may not be 8 super dominant armies. That would be kind of rare. So usually after the first few, that's where you start to see more diversity across different teams.
Yep.
And a large part of that starts to bake in, you know, player expertise in certain factions. Can you know, maybe find something that other teams aren't going to quite understand? I think we're seeing that a little bit with the GSC and also with AdMech, 2 armies that have maybe been a little bit less popular in the meta, but clearly showing some really nice performances this weekend.
Absolutely. This being the ritual also adds a little bit of a fun element here. The ritual is one of those mission sets where it is easier to make a game close, I find. And so you're going to think that with this, you're just looking at, can you hold on to your primary? And since you get to choose where it is, it's harder to take advantage of an open table, I find, and it's harder to fight your opponent's primary. So that means that in some of these games, if they start to go poorly, it's a little bit easier to still score points. Conversely, of course, if you're trying to get a big win, you have to be extremely dominant in the board position to stop your opponent from just chaining objectives all the way back to the edge of the game. And so a little bit harder to push for those big wins, and if you can do it, it's going to be really impactful because the other team's going to struggle just as much.
And so now we're basically just seeing the teams making their final selections on the boards.
You know, early picks here for games that I'm extremely interested in. I think that I'm very curious about that Tau into Astra Militarum. Jack seems to have gotten the rematch that he wanted. And as well, Admech into Genestealer Cult, I think is going to be extremely interesting. And then Dark Angels into Guard, I am super intrigued to see how that one goes. I've played it several times, and it's been a bit of a different game each time. I can see this one going either way. Now we know that Sasha already played against Astra Militarum, and that was his only loss of the weekend. But we'll see if this being a slightly different table might make it more in Sasha's favor. As well, perhaps he's learned some lessons from what happened last time. I think a big part of this is that this is the ritual. As a matter of fact, at WTC, the time that I played my Dark Angel in Astra Militarum game against Team England was on the ritual. And I can tell you that that is not a bad mission for Dark Angels. That means that that normal Astra Militarum strength of being able to point guns at objectives and tell you not to hold them, that is gone because Sasha is picking where the objectives are. The Guard are going to have to actually fight the Dark Angels on their objectives if they want them to not score primary. And that is not always the most comfortable place to be. But it is an interesting choice for a final mission for sure.
Yep. Yeah, so we have a couple kind of revenge plot lines brewing. I think that Admech GSC game is going to be super interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. That might be the highlight of the round for me. I mean, we saw Ryan Verbeek, fighting extremely valiantly in the Monstars' only defeat. He scored a 20-0 over the Space Marines in the round against Pro Tabletop.
Super dominant.
Not quite enough to power his team to victory, but he did all he could, and so you know that he's looking to put up another big score, especially against a big name like Richard Siegler. And of course, Richard Siegler's he wants to show how competitive Admech can be as well. All right, there's only one table left, so you would assume that it's going in the last slot. Maybe they're still waffling. Oh, that's fair.
Oh,
and there it is. All right.
I did not see that
I'm
coming.
sure the Tau would have chosen that if that was an option.
All right. So we're going to have a little bit of time right now for the players to make their ways over to their tables. They are going to, do all these kind of pregame things, getting their armies over. Right now we actually have Midwest Monstars doing a little bit of a huddle.
Yeah. I think Art of War is as well.
Yep.
I wonder if they still have a mic on. Doesn't seem like it.
It looks like Midwest actually deliberately took theirs off.
Yep.
Understandable.
And I think Nick muted his as well. Fair enough. All right. Tattoo Sapola is still confused as how did Richard pull off that 17 yesterday. You're not alone. It takes a little bit of Admech wizardry. But I got to say, if you want to check out these individual games, be aware that you can do so. If you go to the Tabletop Life YouTube channel, you can actually watch the individual game streams for all 8 of these tables. We're going to be sitting here just kind of talking through the round, talking about the escape of the round. But if you want to go ahead and check in on an individual game that is not, that is just not able to be seen right now, since we can only cover one of the 8 at a time, we'll get there soon, but you could always go check it on a separate tab if you want to. Just make sure, you mute it. Keep listening to us. We're here to tell you about how the round is going, tell you the story of the round. And it should be very interesting to see how this one goes down. I know that the Art of War team is in good position. They're currently in first place, but they are not taking this round lightly. They are absolutely ready. Oh, we're going to give you the commentary. Worry not, but hey, you could always mute the new tab, Listen to one, watch another. And again, that is the Tabletop Life YouTube channel that you can check out those individual games on. As well, if you just want to go back and watch one later. Those are recordings, so you'll be able to check them out.
Yeah, absolutely. And we actually heard from quite a few players at this event that they have taken advantage of that and gone back and watched some of their own games on stream. I'm sure some teams have also watched, maybe some of the games for opposing teams to maybe get a little bit of a understanding of how certain situations play out for that army.
Yeah.
Adds an interesting kind of dynamic.
All right, let's go ahead and check out table 6 real quick. It looks like Price just wants us to check a camera. Yep. Well, in fact, that camera is working. That's good to know. All right, so we do have our streams up. Perfection. All right. The Monstars have given their chance. Team Art of War is already at the tables. Team Art of War is going to be on the blue side for all this, which means the Monstars are going to be in red, even though they appear to be in tie-dye.
We'll work on having color-changing table covers.
I'm sure next time we'll have that ready.
All right.
This will be a lot of fun to watch, I think.
Yeah. Awesome. Like I said, these two teams were out last night having dinner together. A lot of good battle stories being shared. So I expect this to be a very fun round. A lot of fun. Maybe some poking at each other on some of the tables.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, there was a lot of banter last night, so expect that as we clue into individual games, you'll be able to hear the players talking a little bit of smack, but don't worry, I very much expect it to be in good nature. I think there's a lot of respect between these two teams, even though that might come out with, an occasional insult to their opponent's aptitude.
So along with getting set up at those tables, we are also going to be waiting a little bit for players to get their information punched into the scoring computers at each table. Once they've done that, we can go through, do some predictions.
Absolutely. I'm very excited to make my predictions for this one. We'll see. I know both teams are motivated for this one. The Monstars certainly want to try to be the team that pulls off the upset. They very much are happy to have the underdog mentality right now, and I do not think that they're going to shirk away from this. I'm willing to bet that the Monstars are going to be playing this one with a lot of risks. If I were to make a prediction on the scope of the round, and I'll predict only to the games in a little bit, I'm going to guess that the Monstars are very willing to play fast and aggressive here. Because, our Team Art of War has a bit of a reputation. They're in first place, It's not going to be any surprise to anyone if Team Art of War is able to escape this with a victory. But I don't think the Monstars are going to take that as a cue to go quietly into the night.
Yeah.
I think they're going to go out firing.
Yep, I think that makes total sense. It's kind of a more macro version of the pairing process in a way, where you have to look at kind of where standings are right now, and you might reevaluate if this match was happening round 2 versus round 5. Maybe you played it a little bit differently, but in this situation, maybe you do, go a little more risk-reward.
Yep. Yeah, and this is a point where the Monstars themselves cannot win this tournament. However, they could absolutely rob Art of War of the victory and play spoiler. And you know what? For every Alabama, you need a Vanderbilt, right?
Yep.
Those people are just going to play hard anyways. All right, so it looks like most of the players are at their tables. Don't know what's going on with table 6 yet, but none of the players seem interested in setting up their models over there. But I'm sure they'll come back and figure out how they're going to do that soon. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and... All right, just deciding where we're going to set up some of these rolling cams as we're preparing for what we expect to be a lot of action. Tables 1 and Table 8 are my 2 picks for, the good ones, I guess, or the ones that I think are going to be really fun. But truth be told, I expect all 8 of these to be quite fun. Let's see. Votann versus Sisters is going to be an interesting one. I could see that being a little bit quick to decide. If the Monstars are taking the aggressive approach, that is certainly one of the ways they can approach this. I have not spoken to the Monstars about what their overall team strategy is. I don't want to make too much of an assumption that I can read their minds. But if that is the approach they take, I imagine that would involve one of those armies being able to push like Sisters. And we'll know pretty quickly whether or not the Sisters have taken the critical mass out of the Votann. And if it goes the other way, we'll probably also know that pretty quickly too.
Absolutely.
You'd certainly expect some of those units to come up with a lot of judgment tokens. And, the Votann are going to be excited to hold down the trigger if the Sisters army pushes them.
All right, folks, we should be back up. Sorry about that. Thank you so much, Matt. Really appreciate that. Crazy explosions. Yeah, you called it that. One versus Russell, definitely the highlight of the weekend in terms of deadly demises. For other folks in chat who maybe missed that, essentially in the last round between Art of War and Pro Tabletop, we had Brad from Pro Tabletop with his Thousand Suns versus Russell on Art of War with his Chaos Marines. Russell definitely was playing that game as a very defensive KG. I'm just trying to get points against Thousand Suns, and was pretty much kind of turtled up behind terrain most of the game with his Predators and Abaddon even. It's not often you see Abaddon taking cover behind pieces of terrain, but nevertheless that was the case here. And in one, I think it was round 4. Actually, it was back-to-back rounds. So one Mutalith Vortex Beast got next to that turtled up formation, died, exploded, did mortals to everything. Next round, other Mortalith Vortex Beast blows up, kills 2 Predators, Abaddon. It was one of the deadliest chain reaction explosions I have ever seen. So that was definitely a highlight this weekend. We will get into those predictions in just a moment. We are a little reliant on players putting in their information in the tablets, which most have not gotten to yet. Looks like Table 1 being very diligent. They got their information in. Looks like Table 2 has. Table 4 looks like they're on it. See, Table 5 looking good. Table 6 we will need to poke. Table 7 looking good. And Table 8 we will need to poke. So got 3 tables left that need to get their information into that tablet so we can bring you those predictions. Hey Jonathan, how you doing this morning? Thanks for sticking with us all weekend. Ryan, thank you so much for the super chat. Does Call deserve to have the monster keyword? John, what do you think? Got a super chat asking, does Call deserve to have the monster keyword? I feel like it hurts his feelings.
I mean, Call is a bit of a monster. I'm glad that they fixed it by letting him go through walls, at least. So at that point, maybe. I just don't feel comfortable calling that man infantry.
He's a pretty big guy.
Maybe make him a beast. Feels like being beast kind of would have solved things. Right, but you also don't want Call getting clapped up by all the the anti-infantry things either, do you?
That's true.
All right. And so, starting to kick things off. Let's see how many of the players actually have their things in. Do we need to go poke some of them?
Everyone but table 3 is good,
Table 3.
which is Russell.
That should be Russell and Kyle. So that's Kyle McCord for Monstars. We'll see if we can edit that ourselves. I, for one, am itching to make some predictions here. Jonathan Haynes asks, hey, John, how effective is lethal and reroll hits as a combo, especially with crit 5s? Extremely effective. Lethal hits and crit 5s and rerolls goes a long way. I mean, if you can stack something like Sustained in there, of course, it just gets, even more silly, to put it bluntly. But if you've got something that wants lethal hits, crit 5s, you're just happy. It's just a good roll to have, a good combo.
All right. Ready to make some predictions, John?
100%. All right, let's make some projections here of how we expect or think or predict this is going to go. First table is Sasha Edelkraut against Jeff Husser, and that's Dark Angels against Astra Militarum. I think that the combination of the mission and the fact that Sasha chose the table, not Jeff, is going to be massively impactful. We saw that Sasha was able to put in maybe more work than you would have expected given the table, certainly than we expected in the last time we played it. I think that this takes it from a loss to a win. I'm calling this one in favor of Sasha. I'm actually thinking that it's massively impactful, but the Astra Militarum player is also going to be able to score primary easily because of the nature of the ritual. I'm calling it a 13 for Sasha Edelkraut on the Dark Angels. All right. And next up is Nick Nanavati against Sean. Nick is playing Genestealer Cult. Sean is playing Chaos Space Marines. Now, I can know from experience that Nick has played against a Cursed Cultist recently. He did it yesterday, and he was able to get a big score there. I think that's the case again. I don't think he's going to be able to push quite the same amount of differential that he got last time. I'm still expecting a win for Nick, though. Honestly, Nick's been performing this weekend. I don't know what happened, but Nick is playing Genestealer Cult and getting better scores than he was with Sisters of Battle. I think he's found his magic mojo. I'm calling a 14 for Nick here. I think another solid win, and I think he actually is going to be able to attack some of the primary. The ritual is drawish, but I think Nick's got it here. Now we've got the flip side of this, and this is the other Chaos Space Marine game. This is Russell against Kyle. Chaos Space Marines against Dark Angels. This was on the last table left, so it's kind of a neutral one. It's table 3. It's not great. It's not the worst, but I feel like the Dark Angels have the advantage here. In addition to normal Deathwing Knight shenanigans, they have a Lancer for some long-range stuff. They have a Redeemer to make sure that you just cannot push on them with anything infantry-shaped. I'm calling this Dark Angel favored. I think 13-7 in favor of the Monstars here. I think that there's a big thing that's affecting my decision-making is that there's just a limit on how much you can push certain armies on the ritual. And I think the Dark Angels are going to win. I think they're going to control the table. But if the Chaos Space Marines just make objectives behind their walls as they slowly back up, they're going to score a lot of primary if that happens. On to the next, Quentin Sisters into Chris McAdams on Grey Knights. This is a tricky one. I'm genuinely not confident in what the right answer is going to be here. I feel like Sisters have that ability to kill Grey Knights if they need to, but also I don't know if they're actually going to get the drop on a Grey Knight army that can deploy hyper-conservatively and then pick up the 3 Grandmasters, drop them back in. Canis walks in from a table edge. The 3 Dread Knights on the table move 14 inches and fly and then shoot. They can get the first strike still, even though Sisters are traditionally a faster army. I'm going to call this an 11 for Quinton Johnson and the Sisters. I think Sisters are going to control the table, but I think the Grey Knights are just going to hang around the whole time. They're going to be scoring secondaries the whole time, and again, it's ritual. It's really hard to contest primary without full sending, and I wouldn't be confident full sending into the Grey Knights. I'd just be trying to win the shootout and win my game. All right, we're on the back half of the tables now. Next one up is Jack Harpster's Astra Militarum into David Clark on Tau Empire. This is a game that this is a game that Jack lost yesterday, but it was an entirely different type of Tau list. And I think the Tau list that he's facing here is one he's a little bit more familiar with. It's 3 Riptides, 3 Sky Rays, 2 Hammerheads, 3 Piranhas. It is a lot of tank with direct shooting, and Jack has brought a decent number of tanks with direct shooting as well. I'm feeling like Jack is going to be able to win this one, but I'm also calling this as the slimmest of margins. I think this is just going to be like a 12 in favor of Art of War here. Next up is Mike Museni, Thousand Suns into Corey Schultz on Necrons. Mike has played the Necrons twice this weekend. Mike has beaten Necrons twice this weekend. It's always a little bit spooky if those guns start getting towards Magnus, but I'm fairly confident that Mike can. Honestly, I think he can easily protect the Silent King from getting shot. Because if you 3-inch deep strike to shoot the Silent King, it's only, or sorry, to shoot a Magnus.
From getting shots off.
Yeah, it's only one thing that can shoot, and that one thing is probably not going to be near the Silent King, so he's not going to get to ignore the -1 damage or the blanket save. And so I'm calling this 1,000 Suns favor. I think this one's going to be 12-8. Brian Jones, Leagues of Votan into Scott Sassor and Adeptus Sororitas. I got to go with the Sisters of Battle on this one. I think Sisters take this one. I think that if Brian takes conservative, it's going to be hard to bully him around. Let's call this one another 12-8. And then finally, of Richard Siegler against Ryan Verbeck. This one's tough. These are both great players. I mean, no doubt about it. It's hard to pick a winner. I have picked against Richard several times. Maybe I'll be right this time, but also maybe I should just accept reality. And I think we're going to pick Richard here. I'm thinking 12. I don't believe Richard's going to try to win this game big unless Ryan overextends. And on the Ritual, it's so easy to just control your primary and call it a day. So that's going to be the final projection. This means right now we're looking at 89-71 to Art of War with John's projections, where Art of War doesn't have any really big victories, but I just think that they're going to take more games down that stretch of 8 than the Monstars are, and that's going to lead to a small victory. Certainly, though, there's room for heroics on both sides of the aisle, and we'll kind of see which team's able to really pull it all together, or if they end up in a draw. We haven't had a draw on stream yet, which is honestly kind of surprising.
That is honestly surprising. In this format, it is certainly not that weird to end up in a draw. So out of that score, if you're not familiar with this format, basically there's like a 10-point buffer zone in the middle that results in a round draw between the teams. So if the score is anything between 75 and 85, that is a draw. So to win a round, a team must score at least a collective 86 points.
Yep. And they've all landed right in that margin for so far. No one has cracked 100. We haven't had anyone get like what I would describe as a clean win on stream. But so far, one team has found a way to push the margins every time. All right, let's go check out and see if any of these tables have really started the action in earnest. I wonder if we look at table 4. That's the one I can't see right now. I can't tell how far along those players are.
Might have to do some camera poking.
No problem.
All right, let's stick it on the wide here for a moment.
No problem.
We'll go check that out.
All right, so we're just going to give it a little bit of a while to make sure that all these players get everything set up on their tables while Werner goes around and makes sure that all the technology. Look at that handsome fellow. While you're hanging out with me in here, make sure you let me know if there are games that you're particularly interested in. Obviously, we think we know what the interesting games are, but we're going to have to go back and watch all 8 of them. So if you've got any requests, feel free to put them in. We're going to go check in on all 8 games as this goes on. Yeah, I think if we're looking at the potential off of those predictions that I made earlier to see which ones are going to have push potential, I think that for Art of War, I think that table 6 has that little bit of push potential, and that is the Thousand Suns into Corey Schultz and Necrons. Corey's list has a lot of guns, but until it doesn't, and it's not like Necrons are shy on, or sorry, Thousand Suns are shy on ways to pick up even relatively durable units. And so I think you could make a case that if the Thousand Suns can take just a couple of those damage dealers out, there aren't a ton of scoring elements in Corey's army. And so if Mike is able to successfully target a lot of the little things early, just, whipping source around and do bolting and just picking up the trash units, if that happens, you can just all of a sudden say, hold on, Corey can't really make more objectives. He can't really do anything there. And so all of a sudden, it's like, oh, I'm not actually scoring as many points as I want to. And that's a way that Mike could get a really big win. On the other side of it, if we're looking at a game with some real upside potential for the Monstars, I would say that it's Tau into Astra Militarum. The Tau chose the table, and that is a case of it's wide open. I do not believe that Jack is going to be able to hide a significant amount of his army from the Tau shooting phase. And if the Tau go first, if the Tau get a good shooting phase, one bad turn out of the guard and they kind of run out of options. And so I would be very concerned as Art of War to see how the first 2 turns of that game go. If Jack stabilizes, I think he wins the long game, but there is that risk that things go poorly at the end of it. So, yeah, those are ones. I think there's a lot of potential for upside on those 2 tables. Yes, there was a crazy dino interruption. Someone in a dinosaur suit was running past the tables. I do not know if that person has any Warhammer affiliation or if they're just having a good time at DreamHack. Doesn't really matter to me, as long as everyone's having fun. The players certainly didn't seem to mind. All right, so Greg Gonzalez has a quick super chat for us. Greg, thank you so much for your support. It means the world to us. And that question is, can you speak a little more to your comment that in Ritual you hold your home and the Ritual objective? Not quite what I meant. More that in the Ritual it is very easy to just make new objectives behind terrain. So you don't have to hold the center objective. You know, you can just each turn 1 create an objective behind whatever wall is nearest the center objective. There's always something vaguely nearby. And then you very quickly just start making more objectives behind walls. And so if that happens, it's very hard to push because someone has to push past your walls that you're hiding behind and get to you. Normally, light tables are characterized by the terrain not being on the objectives, and therefore you get your choice of safety or primary. But on the Ritual, you know, the benefits of a light table, as long as there's any hiding spot, can a little bit be taken away.
All right, so bit of a technical hang-up we have right now. We are actually going to have to take the stream down very briefly to make sure that we are actually getting all of those overhead feeds. Currently, they're not coming in, and we basically have to just get a quick restart in. So want to try and do that now before games really get going. That way we don't have to interrupt any of the actual coverage. So stick right where you are. We will be down and up as fast as we possibly can.
Absolutely. Stay tuned, everyone. Apologies for the interruption, but don't go anywhere. We will be back with 8 awesome games of Warhammer.
All right. We'll see you very shortly.